How is it to run an office as a female? We made 1 million in our second year in practice. We're trying to help as many chiropractors and future chiropractors do the same to help as many people as possible. I don't run any ads, so if you enjoy the content, please subscribe and share it with your colleagues and future colleagues to get on the path to victory.
You have to understand how things are up here.
Hey guys, today I have a special guest. Before I introduce her, it's just a question that we got a lot when we're talking to mostly Sherman and Parker students and a little bit of Logan. It was, how is it to run an office as a female? I never put two and two together. At first, when the first two people asked it, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, female and male, you have to run an office. It doesn't matter. You could be a cat, a dog, pirate, female, male. You're gonna have to run an office. It doesn't matter what. A business is a business. But we got that question a lot, and now I could see the why people were asking that. So I cannot talk as a female perspective, as you can tell. So with me is my beautiful wife, Dr. Emily. Basically, Emily's the one that runs the office when it comes to the staff. I'm more of a visionary. She's gonna put the things together, and she's the basically chiropractor and office manager. So Emily, thank you for joining me today. You got that question a lot, so you could just break the ice and help those people that were asking that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Owning a business as a female is no different, in my opinion, than owning a business as a male. Not that I've ever had that experience before. But really these days, especially we're in 2024, it's progressive times. So owning a business as a female is really no more difficult than running a business as anybody else. No matter what race or your sexual orientation, it really doesn't matter. The main principles of being an entrepreneur and running your own business, you just have to work hard. I think that when we put these limitations of, oh, I'm a female or I'm really young, they're just limitations in our own mind. And it's an obstacle that we create oftentimes to make excuses for ourselves, quite frankly. So if you're not succeeding at the end of the day, if your business isn't doing well, if you're not getting the clients or the patients that you want, you can go to bed and comfort yourself and say, oh, it's probably just because I'm a female, or it's probably just because I'm only 25, right? When we started out, we were really young. And so it would have been really easy for us to make those excuses. And I just really think that's what it is excuses. As a female, there's going to be disadvantages, but there's also a lot of advantages to being a female and running your own business. There's also disadvantages to being a male and running your own business. It's really just all about perspective and how you see it. As a female, oftentimes, stereotypically, you think a little bit more with an emotional side of your brain. Males think with a little bit more logic, right? At least that's my experience.
Right.
Oftentimes when I make decisions, I have to really work hard to turn off that emotional side of my brain and really dial in that logic side. As a business owner and being a female, it only hurts you to make emotional decisions for the most part. When it comes to running a business, you really have to turn on that logic side. So that's kind of what I've seen in my experience of owning a business as a female.
I like that analogy, especially the one that it doesn't matter if you're purple, if you're red, because I'm Hispanic, as you know. So I have a friend that is Hispanic as well, and he said every time I go to a restaurant, I feel the waitress is gonna think that I'm not gonna tip her, because that's what most Hispanics do. And he was basically like giving them like a 30% of the tip. And I talked to him, I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter like if you're red, if you're purple, if you're green, if you're orange, whatever you're from, it doesn't matter, dude. Like at the end of the day, like do your thing, and that's in your head. Don't focus on what would the person say. If you're doing the correct thing, you're doing the correct thing.
Right.
So I don't think we should be thinking about a female perspective. I'm scared, how am I gonna run the office? Or I'm a male, but I have an accent. That could be an excuse, but I'm not gonna put that as an excuse. Basically, I'm gonna improve my accent, and that's gonna motivate me.
Right.
So when you talk about the female basically going by emotions, what are some situations or a story that you could tell that something happened?
Yeah, happy to share a story that just popped into my brain. We had an office manager for a long time in our office, and she was very good for a time. And I do believe that there are certain people who come into your life and they serve their purpose for that season of life. So in her instance, she served an incredible purpose in the growth of our office to help make us better, to help make patients better. But it comes a point where they serve their purpose and then it's probably time to leave. I didn't catch on about the time to leave part because my brain was so emotionally attached to this person, to this female, to her family. We became friends with them. We did a lot for that family. They did a lot for us. But it comes a point where, because we were so emotionally connected, it was hard for me to recognize that it was time for her to probably leave our office. And because of that, things started to go downhill. We noticed that she was slacking off in certain areas. We gave her a lot of leeway, and she kind of took that to her advantage. Just kind of missing steps, missing phone calls, not really handling finances very well in our office. And that can really be detrimental to the office if you don't recognize that right away. So in that situation, we had to sit down and have that conversation. I had to shut off my emotional brain and think about how this was going to affect her or impact her and her family. We had to turn on the logic, turn on the side of, oh, this is what's going to hurt or help our business. And so it's really hard to do that. But that's one case where my emotional side hurt me.
And now that you know what to do, basically, for those females that are hearing, or males, because this could go both ways, what would you recommend them to do in order to like notice those things ahead of time and don't make the same mistake that you did?
Do whatever it takes to dial in your logic brain. So if you start to have fear or anxiety or any type of emotion that isn't serving you, you have to take a step back as a female, as a male, whoever, and ask yourself a couple questions. Number one, is this the truth? So let's say I'm fearful about something. Is this fear even true? Am I not succeeding because I'm a female? I'm going to step back and ask myself, is that even true? Let's suppose it is. Okay, then what? Now, how does that truth serve me, right? Let's suppose it's not true. Okay, I should get over that fear pretty quick. And then I have to ask myself, how does that impact me? How does it make me feel? So if I'm fearful, or let's say in this example, I'm emotionally connected to this person and I'm afraid to fire her. Okay, so number one, is it true that I'm too emotionally connected and that something's going to go wrong if I fire her? And then number two, how does that impact me? How does that make me feel? And if I really just kind of process those emotions and think about the bad maybe outweighing the good in this instance, I can really easily make a logical decision. So I kind of have to, as a female, process through my emotions, kind of sit back, think about them, weigh some pros and cons, put aside all emotion, and make the logical decision. That's just how I kind of analyze things.
Yeah. And then another thing is, because a lot of females have reached out to us and say, hey, chiropractic is a male dominance profession and blah, blah, blah. Totally fine with that. Although there's a lot of females coming out of the profession. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is great for the profession. How would you handle, because I know, people are going to come to the office and hit on the doctor, on the female doctor, and, be kind of like silly about it. Or inclusive if a 6'6" patient, 300 pounds, lay on the table, what are you going to do? I know that has happened to you. So how do you handle things like that?
Yeah, if there's ever like weird, creepy male, maybe I've felt like I'm being hit on, I can either dismiss that patient because you have that full authority. Not every client, customer, patient, however you want to say, needs to stay in your business. If you don't feel comfortable, you can refer them to somebody down the road. It's perfectly acceptable. I've never really felt that personally. I think if you're feeling that, it might be some of the energy that you're putting out. So be very mindful about that. When I'm at work, I know I'm devoted to my husband. I'm devoted to my business partner. I'm not there thinking about any of that stuff. So that's number one. But number two, let's say I have a huge male come in, I take care of a guy who's 6'4". He's probably pushing 250. I don't even think about it. I don't think about size as a limitation. If anything, now I'm going to train harder in the gym. I'm going to work on my speed, right? Chiropractic is not all about force and size and weight. It's actually a lot about speed. And in some instances, I think females have a huge advantage in that case because we're a little bit smaller, right? We're faster. Our hands can go in places maybe the size of a male's hands cannot. And so in that case, I don't even think about it. I just do, right? It's not, a 6'6", 250-pound male patient. It's just another patient. And I'm going to do what I do. He's got a spine just like a 6-month-old baby has a spine. I'm going to find the misalignment and I'm going to adjust it just like I would if I were a male, if I were a bigger woman, It doesn't matter.
Correct. And now we're running out of time. This has been pretty fun. I have a big question because a lot of people don't know you gave birth on August. And what a lot of people don't know is that next week you're already working. So being a business owner is not as easy as people think about. And I know that it was hard on you, especially with a newborn that, lacking sleep and all that.
Yep.
But I feel that's pretty badass. So I want you to share that with people because thankfully you have the advantage that I was in the office and I was able to help. But there's a lot of females that don't have a partner or an associate on the office and they're by themselves. So I just want you to share your experience from, you gave birth, you basically practiced until you were 38, 39 weeks. You were adjusting people. You lowered the frequency a little bit, but you were still adjusting people. You gave birth that week. Basically, you didn't show up to the office, but you were still controlling the office from Zoom calls and text messages and calls. And then the next week you showed up to the office though, to lead a meeting. I feel that's pretty badass. So I just want you to share your experience about that because I know a lot of females chiropractors are going to give birth. So I just want you to share your experience and see if that could help them.
Sure. Not everybody has had or will have the amazing pregnancy and delivery and, all that postpartum after that I had. But in my experience, I had an amazing pregnancy, an amazing delivery. And so I felt physically and emotionally and mentally capable to go back to work because I kind of prepared myself, I feel like, in advance. And I think that's really big. If you are a female and you're planning to have a baby, do a lot of prep work behind the scenes, right? You can't just step out of your office and expect it to run if you haven't done any work in preparation for that. We did a lot of preparation work. These are my tasks that I do so that when I'm out, these are the tasks that need to be taken over by staff or, by another doctor. So that was number one, prep work. And then getting back into the office, the office is like my happy place. I like working. I love vacation, but I like working. I love what I do, and I feel like we're pretty good at it. And so that motivated me to go back and just crush it and go back even stronger than I was before. And if you're a female, chances are your patients are gonna wanna see the baby that you just had if they've made that connection with you, right? So bring your baby, especially when they're in that newborn stage. It's so much easier to bring them when they're not mobile than when they start to walk and crawl and do all the things. So that was kind of my thing. Let's just get right back at it. For me, I just didn't even think twice. I'm I want to just resume right where we were. And I want to show my kids that hard work is necessary, right? You have to do what it takes to keep a business running. Maybe eventually I don't have to go back a week after, but I wanted to. And so I don't know. I think if you adopt that principle of I love working and I love my office and I love my patients, I think that helps you go back that much quicker.
And you need to stay committed to that, I imagine, right? Because probably in that time you have voice probably that told you hey, stay here, whatever, inside thoughts that you didn't want to be there. Because if it's hard work, doesn't mean that everyone is going to do it, correct? So it's hard work means, it's going to be hard to do it, correct? So how do you handle those days that probably you didn't want to be there because you slept 2 hours?
Yeah, those days you kind of just drink your coffee and you keep going. There were days, I'm not going to lie, it's not all fun and games and easy days. There's days where I'm running on 2 hours of sleep and I'm super tired and I can't wait to go to bed that night. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's about the patients you're serving. It's about the purpose that God instilled in your heart. And as long as you're really, really solid in that, it's super easy to go to work, to serve. And to be honest, we're all actors in the stage of life. Sometimes I'm super tired. I don't want to be at the office because I'd rather be with my baby, for example. But at the end of the day, I need to be there in front of my patient and I need to be present. And so if you have to put on, an actor's face for the day, that's okay. You go back, you fill your cup, and then you go back to work and you get stronger.
And
so
another thing that helped us, right, it was we didn't have childcare at the moment, a daycare, and you didn't want to do that yet. And you basically wanted to practice 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, or 2 and 2. So we hired someone, right, a college student, and we rented another room in the office, and she just came, took care of him. If you needed to breastfeed, you just went upstairs, breastfeed, and come back to see patients.
Yes.
So I feel that's not an excuse just because you had a baby, just to close, basically shut off the office. And I'm saying it from a male perspective, so don't copy me that, but just seeing you, it looked pretty cool, and we saw another chiropractor that she was a week off by herself, and then she opened again on the Monday after, all by herself with the baby on the carrier. So that was pretty cool. Is there something else you would like to share?
No, I was just thinking about that. I think for all females, that's probably the most common question we get is, how did you have a baby and how does that work, and taking time off. At the end of the day, it's your business. Maybe if you're an associate, it's a little bit different, but if you own the business and you're a female chiropractor and you plan on having a baby, there are so many options that you can do. I would say just explore your options, and whatever feels right and works best for you and your family dynamics, do that. You don't have to do what we did. You don't have to do what somebody else did. Do what works best for your family. You can adjust your hours. You can adjust the times when you see the baby, whatever. But there are so many options: breastfeed, bottle fed, whatever works best for your family, you can do that. So I would just say explore the options and do what's best for you, and you can do it. You are strong. If you've had a baby, you could do anything.
Well, thank you for joining me. If you don't know, basically she's the CEO. I'm more of the visionary behind the scenes. She's the one handling staff, day-to-day, office manager, and seeing her patients. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for joining me and sharing your brain with these people.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing this again.